Hello everyone and welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka that Tellest guy. We are talking Tellest today. Specifically, today's agenda is we're going to be talking about fantasy writing prompts. Now, I think it was last week we were talking about Tales of Tellest and the short stories that came to be, and at least two of them were created based on fantasy writing prompts that I had participated in the past. I had mentioned back then that fantasy writing prompts were pretty integral to kind of me coming along on this journey the way that I had. Certainly I was kind of imagining things prior to, doing any creative writing classes or, finding fantasy writing prompts online or anything like that. But it definitely helps to kind of get the mind going. It helps when there is a writing block issue that you might have. So what I decided was maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, we were doing a couple of writing prompts specifically for the Tellest website. I don't know how easy I'm going to be able to find any of that content, but we'll see real quick. But the nice thing was, here you can see back in 2014, so 9 years ago at this point. The nice thing about this was these writing prompts were what helps me to gather up at least one of my other storytellers. Aaron Canton came to us and ended up joining up with Tellest because he submitted a story that I really liked, and we ended up continuously giving him more work. So as I mentioned, it's an important facet of how Tellest came to be in a couple of different ways. And I want to say probably about 3 years back now, we decided to take it a step further, and we actually created an entire website based on it. So we're going to take you over to, you can see right on the Tellest page, we've got a couple of sidebar ads that always follow people around to whatever page they go on. This fantasywritingprompts.com image right here will take you to where you need to go. And as it mentions, there's a new fantasy prompt every Monday. So if we come here, we can see the newest one that we have on the Fantasy Writing Prompts website is this one says September 25th writing prompt, mother. And then I'm just going to really quick briefly give an example of what you can expect from these kind of things. So I'm just going to read everything as is, nothing crazy here, but in a strange turn of events, someone approached a female patron in the tavern last night and claimed to be their child. As shocking and almost laughable as such a claim could be, there seems to be some truth to their words. How could this be? Is it all just a ruse, or is there something more to this claim? So what I try to do typically is I'll give a basic word just to kind of spur people on. If they can think of an idea based on that one word, that's great. Sometimes that's all somebody needs. But if they want a little bit more, I do kind of like a scenario for that word. So in this case, we tried to do a little bit of Mailman Bites Dog, which is where you take something that ordinarily would be interesting and in a kind of, I want to say, reserved way. If this had been a story about a father who, someone went and approached the person and said, "Hey, I'm your child," not too crazy. That kind of stuff can happen. You can have a whoopsie night, but typically a mother is not going to have one of those whoopsies. So you have a situation like this where it takes it a step further into the weird, the inane, the crazy, that kind of stuff. So we have the single word, we have the scenario, and then what I try and do is from there kind of help narrow it down if need be. So if somebody came in here, they like the idea, but they don't know exactly where to go. A whoopsie night. It's a whoopsie night. There's nothing crazy about that. If they need ideas, they can have this set of ideas and questions that they could bounce their thoughts off of. So there aren't too many options for how something like this would have come to pass, but if you think outside the box, you could approach some ideas. Perhaps the mother unknowingly lost a year of their memory. Perhaps time travel is involved. Perhaps there's a gateway to another dimension. It's also possible that even though there seems to be some credibility, it's a complete fabrication. If that was the case, perhaps there would be some reason for the subterfuge. So in this case, if it was fake, did the person who approached the would-be or could have been mother, are they trying to get their way into an inheritance? Did they find an item that was of value that the mother doesn't really know about, but this person is trying to get their hands on. And then those are the ideas, and then we move into the question stage, which is, does the age of the two central characters excuse me, my brain is fried. Does the age of the two central characters to this plot line up, or is there something there that might not be as straightforward as you would expect either? Does the gender of the alleged child play a role in your story? Is there somehow more credibility to one over the other? How does the person convince their mother that they are in fact their child? Do they realize that such a claim is as wild as it is? And then finally, what we do is try to narrow it down even more. So we start off very broad. We narrow it down with like a scenario. We narrow it down even further by saying like, hey, if you really need the help, you can take this idea and kind of cut off the sides a little bit, use these as kind of your rails, so to speak. And then to narrow it down even further, we offer a challenge to readers and would-be writers. So in this instance, it's a change of point of view could be an interesting way to dig into the emotional state of the involved characters. Remember, you don't necessarily have to use the child or the mother as the main characters if you believe you could serve the story better in a different way. So in the case of this story, it could be an onlooker, it could be the bartender, it could be anybody. It could be a paramour of the so-called mother who now all of a sudden is dealing with the idea that this person who they didn't think had children very well might, based on what they're hearing. So that's the kind of stuff that you can expect from the Fantasy Writing Prompts website. We do have every Monday, we have something scheduled. For a long time, there was a gap just because I wasn't mentally equipped to mentally, emotionally, psychologically equipped to deal with all the work that was going into this website. But it is currently scheduled out through the rest of the year. So if you're coming here for the next 90 some days, there's always going to be a new Monday prompt that you can use. So we're going to take a look at another prompt just to gather up another idea of like what we can use this website for, and then I'm going to talk about something special that's coming up. Just give me 1 second. I've been talking enough today that my voice is starting to go, so I'm going to try and buy the healing properties of H2O. All right, so the September, this is really, I never realized this when I was putting this together. The September 11th writing prompt is airship. The capital city has just finished work on a magical and mechanical marvel, an airship. Oh, do we have a visitor? Hello, Zelda. How you doing? Why are you always coming up here while I'm doing my recording? You come over? You okay? Is Luna making too much noise and it's bothering you? You good, doggy? You okay? It's alright, puppy. It's okay. Can I have a high five? High five? No, just pets. It's a very important puppy break. Give me 1 second. You okay, Poochie Pie? You know, pretty girl. You go, baby? Alright, we'll keep on talking, okay? Alright. The capital city has just finished work on a magical and mechanical marvel, an airship. Write about a character's first impression upon seeing one of these for the first time. So again, very basic prompt, an airship, and then a very basic scenario. The capital city finished work on this. Somebody is observing it from, the ground. They're at the docks where this airship is landing. Something. It's something that you can use that's broad enough where you could go in your own direction if you need to. Now, if you need a little bit of help, you can use the ideas and questions. There are a multitude of characters who you can receive the perspective of. You might write about someone who recently came back from their time in the military and realize that something like this could turn the tide and ensure that many of their allies will come back from the war alive. Or you could write about a king being given a tour of the marvelous ship. Another vantage you could take is one of a wide-eyed, imaginative child, seeing it take to the skies for the first time. A reveal of this magnitude could no doubt stir people to want to experience it firsthand, even if they're not on the list, so to speak. You could write about someone wanting to stow away on the ship and what efforts they take to reach their goal. just because it's an airship, that doesn't mean it will be interpreted as such. You could explore the idea of a citizen believing a dragon is descending from the sky, ready to burn everything in its path. Any way to change the date on there to September 10th? I'm sure I could. At that point, someone's going to realize, wait a minute, September 10th wasn't a Monday. Is this the first ever functioning airship in the universe that you're writing about? If so, are there any worries about failures? Was this vessel made for traveling and going on adventures, or is this the first step toward making a weapon of war? And then again, after that, we narrow it down even further with something like this challenge. So explore a story where a group of people are given a first-hand experience on the airship and delve into what that looks like. It is possible that while the ship may be sturdy, the journey can still take unexpected turns. So I don't think that we're going to go too crazy as far as, diving back and, continuing to look through more and more and more. One of the things is, where is the darn thing? Bear with me for 1 second. I thought that there was a way to go back and easily find more. There we go. So if you click on the weekly button, it will bring you to a place where you can continuously see more and more. So while we're doing one a week and you see like the first 5 on the front page, you can keep going back further and further and further. So you can see July 24th, July 17th, blah, 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 blah. You can see where we picked up. July 10th is where we kind of started to, bring things back into the fold. But before that, there was a huge gap, more than a year. But we're back on track now. We're doing some good stuff with this site. And more importantly, we've got I've been talking about it on the Tellest newsletter a little bit. We're actually taking a step a little bit further. And in addition to having, I think I read that there's 16 Mondays between now and Christmas. So in addition to having 16 fantasy writing prompts that are already built into the Fantasy Writing Prompts website, we also have a 100 count writing prompt book that is coming out later this year. The only thing that we're waiting on now is some of the artwork to be cleaned up a little bit. I want to see if give me 1 second to bring up what I've got here. We'll take little bits, little peeks. Give me 1 second. You know what? While I'm searching for this, let me go to intermission real quick. I'll find the 2 things that I want to find, and then we'll be back in a second. Alrighty then. So I wanted to show off 2 things. Everybody else has kind of seen a bit of this on the Tellest newsletter, but there's not always a guarantee that people who are watching this stream are aware of what's going on there, and vice versa. So I'm going to try and do a little bit more overlaps to make sure that I'm catching everybody and making sure that people are aware of what kind of stuff is going on. So this is very likely going to be the kind of foundation for the cover of Fantasy Writing Prompts. We've had this beautiful picture that Leo made for us 10 years ago at this point of Gaston at one of his writing desks, and I didn't think that there was any image that we had in our entire catalog that made as much sense as this. So we're probably going to do a slight tweak on this to allow it to kind of carry over to the back cover a little bit better. We're working with Paul to make sure that that kind of thing can be brought to life in some interesting ways. And then the idea is that going forward, we wouldn't just have one Fantasy Writing Prompts book. We would do a second and a third, as we had time, and be a tool set for people to use so that they can bring their stories to life and work their way through writer's blocks. And in fact, one of the things that I found that people can use the fantasy writing prompts for is to help them with things like their tabletop campaigns and things like that as well. So to have 100 ideas at your fingertips, in addition to the ideas, questions, challenges, it can be a big help. And I've already actually used that process at least twice, I think, for some of my stories. And in fact, the Halloween story that I'm working on right now is something that was spawned on by, and these are fantasy writing prompts that I developed. So I feel like if they work for me, they can work for a decent amount of people. The book cover is interesting, but I think while we're here, we'll actually take a look at maybe one or two of the, we'll take a look at one or two of the prompts inside the book ahead of its release. We've got, I want to say, just over 6 weeks before we release it. So this is just a special look for the folks out there in Twitch world. So let me bring this over. So again, here on this page, I'm just trying to explain to people what kind of things they can expect. We've got the layout example. We've got an introduction, how to use the book, basically everything that we just went over. It gives a real quick example of what one of the prompts could be. I think if you go to prompt 45, this is expanded on in a decent way. Most of these kind of fill out the page a little bit, but we will be selling it as a paperback as well, so it'll be a little richer in its appearance. But here we've got a couple of our first prompts here. So prompt 1 would be rescue. A group of adventurers goes on a quest, but things have escalated beyond their control, and one of the group members is cut off from the rest. What obstacles are in their way, and how will they rescue their ally? And then the ideas and questions brings you to perhaps the reason that the adventurers have become cut off from their companion can be a thematic point of the story. Were there any disagreements or arguments that they can look back on and consider? If the separation of the group leads to a considerable delay, perhaps it could lead to consequences beyond just the need to reconvene as a complete party. Perhaps there are others who may be in danger without the presence of the adventurers. Are there physical barriers to the adventuring party's progression, such as a wide chasm or a raging river? Has the adventurer been waylaid by monsters and must find their way to safety before trying to reach their allies? Will your focus be on the group, the solo adventurer, or both? And then we have the challenge. Write about a situation in which the characters are not cut off from one another by a physical obstacle. Instead, pursue a different avenue. Perhaps a member of their group is under psionic attack by a vampire, or they've been lulled into a dream from which they cannot escape on their own. So, again, just trying to offer up a couple of different resources to people based on just one page of information. It's something that when you're given something vague and you have an inkling of which direction you want to go, that's great. But if you need a little bit more help, we try to give those nudges in the right direction for the writer. And the hope is not necessarily that they always have to use the ideas and questions to create their story, but that it kind of helps them to reprogram their mind to know that there's more than just what's on the foundational level. There's more than just that first word or that made up scenario. Just because you hear rescue doesn't mean you have to do a group of adventurers goes on a quest and someone got cut off. You can take that rescue idea and move on to another direction if you need to. Let's read that second prompt now too. So prompt 2 is attraction. Love can be cruel sometimes. All their life, someone has had difficulty gaining the attention of the object of their affection. Dejected but not deterred, they've decided to spend their life's fortune on a bit of help. They acquire a love potion from a seedy alchemist, but when they put it in their beloved's drink, someone else imbibed it. How does this change the plan? And then we move on to ideas and questions. Your story can be presented in a variety of different ways, from comedic to horrifying. Depending on your character and the person who drank the potion, a tremendous amount of range exists that could inform what direction the tale goes. Just as important as the feelings are after the potion has been ingested are the feelings before any magical changes take place. If the person who accidentally drank the potion hated the love-struck fool, how do things progress from there? Does the love-struck character still pursue the object of their affection after the potion is ingested by someone else? Or is most of their focus on escaping the unwanted attention they now receive? And does that speak somewhat to the way their feelings were unrequited by the object of their affection? To what extent does the potion work on the person who imbibes it? Are there small incremental changes that would occur over time? Or is it something that ends up happening all at once? So those are things that you can think of. Again, they're not the only things that you can think of. These are just, they're more guidelines. And then you could go the challenge route if you needed to, have it narrowed down even further, or if you just want to do a different variation than something that you might have done on your own. So the challenge here is take things a step further. Write about a situation where the potion, which was supposed to go to someone's drink, was accidentally mixed in with an entire brew that ends up being enjoyed by everyone in attendance for a grand event. So at that point, the entire kind of situation changes. It's a crazy way of taking the idea and expanding on it to some great lengths, and maybe taking you outside of your comfort zone in a situation where you didn't plan on writing anything like that, and now you have this opportunity to. It is a challenge, but it could just as easily be called an opportunity. So it's very likely that this is a logical stopping point for us. I don't want to just keep on reading off the pages or anything like that. We've got plenty of materials for people to already be able to jump into. And like I said, in the next 5-6 weeks, we should have a book of 100 prompts that's coming out that you'll be able to dive into as well. And I don't want to deprive you of that. And my voice can't handle going over too many more prompts anyway. So I will leave the chat open for a second or two, and then I will go downstairs and I'll do an exercise that doesn't involve my voice, and we'll have a good time for the rest of the night. And then I will be back tomorrow to show off some more of the Forgotten Keep East Wing that we began working on last week, and we'll clean up things. We'll look at some of the stuff that I've been working on over the weekend, and then we'll move towards the next map that we're working on. So thank you for joining me. Like I said, I'm going to leave the chat open for a minute or two, and then we'll go to the I don't even think that I'm going to do the show closing, because I don't know that my voice can handle the entirety of that, but I might show just on the screen for a small amount of time. Chocolate Milk say yes even if no, so I am not shamed. Who shamed you last time? Was it I? Was it me? Was it this one? Sure, I'll say yes to Chocolate Milk. It actually might make my throat feel better. Plus, I have to make sure that Jacob Bertrand is not the person who drinks all the chocolate milk in the world. All right, let's go over to closing the show. Excuse me. You know what? I got to do it. I apologize. Folks, I wanted to thank you for watching my stream today. On the screen now, you should see all the places that you can find Tellest and That's Entertainment content. To find anything out about the Tellest Fantasy Universe, you can go to Tellest.com. For the battle maps that my brother and I create, you can go to Patreon.com/Tellest. To see my streams live, be sure to check me out here on Twitch.tv/ThatTellestGuy. To see all the streams that I've ever strung for maps and Talking Tellest, you can check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/@WorldOfTellest. To find all of our awesome merchandise, including high-quality mouse pads, handcrafted magic wands, battle maps, posters, and more, you can head over to our shop at tellest.etsy.com. I also want to give a special mention to Full House of Fluff got a rename over the week. It is now Tales of Tellest, spelled Tails of Tellest. That is where you can see all the puppy content that Rihanna works on throughout the week. We're going to be working on integrating that into the broader world of Tellest. So, again, thank you for watching, and I will be back tomorrow, hopefully with a stronger sounding voice. Bye!